Hello, Year Twos. Well done for all your fantastic stories. You spent 2 weeks planning and writing your adventure stories for the Baby Chick and Mr. White, and the Year 2 team have been so pleased to receive your stories and to read them. So you've made our week. Thank you very much. Now, I thought as you finished your story writing, it would be nice to read the whole story to you. So sit back and relax and let's enjoy the full story of Poles Apart by Jean Willis and Jarvis. As everyone knows, penguins are found at the South Pole and never at the North Pole, at least not until the day the Pilcher Browns got lost on their way to a picnic. Mr. Pilcher Brown was in charge of the map. He told everyone to turn right at the snowman, which was wrong. Now here they were on the other side of the world, Mr. and Mrs. Pilcher Brown, Peaky, Poots and Pog, drifting towards an enormous, furry, white something. Is it a lion? Is it a tiger? Asked Peaky and Poots. Is it a picnic blanket? Asked Pog. The enormous something looked them up and down. He had never seen anything like the Pilcher Browns before. I'm Mr. White, he said. I'm a polar bear. And you are? Parrots, said Peaky and Poots. Pork pies, said Pog. We're penguins, said Mrs. Pilcher Brown. What are you doing here? Wondered Mr. White. This is where polar bears live, not penguins. Oh, we're going to a picnic at the South Pole, said Pog. This is the North Pole, my friends, said Mr. White. The South Pole is 12,430 miles that way, pointing south. So I was a few miles out, shrugged Mr. Pilcher Brown. Anyone can make a mistake. Don't think of it as a mistake, said Mr. White. Think of it as a big adventure. I have often dreamt of being the first polar bear to reach the South Pole. Mummy says we should always follow our dreams, said Peaky. Daddy says we should always follow him, said Poots. Lead the way, Mr. White, said Mrs. Pilcher Brown. The penguins followed Mr. White over land and sea. Eek, said Peaky. Whoa, said Poots. Can we have our picnic now, said Pog. But it wasn't the best spot, so they followed Mr. White all the way to America. Howdy, said Mr. Pilcher Brown. Busy, said Peaky. Buzzing, said Poots. Can we have our picnic, said Pog. Not now, dear, said Mrs. Pilcher Brown. America was awesome, but it wasn't home, so they followed Mr. White all the way to England. How do you do, said Mr. Pilcher Brown. Grey, said Peaky. Grand, said Poots. Can we have our picnic, said Pog. Not now, dear, said Mrs. Pilcher Brown. England was charming, but it wasn't home, so they followed Mr. White all the way to Italy. Ciao, said Mr. Pilcher Brown. Wet, said Peaky. Wonderful, said Poots. I need a wee, said Pog. Not in there, dear, said Mrs. Pilcher Brown. Italy was magnifico, but it wasn't home, so they followed Mr. White all the way to India. Namaste, said Mr. Pilcher Brown. Hot, said Peaky. Huge, said Poots. Put that python down, dear, said Mrs. Pilcher Brown. India was dazzling, but it wasn't home, so they followed Mr. White all the way to Australia. G'day, said Mr. Pilcher Brown. Faster, said Peaky. Fun, said Poots. Can we have our picnic now, said Pog. Soon, said Mrs. Pilcher Brown. Australia was bonza, but it still wasn't home, so they followed Mr. White. Over the land and over the sea, on and on they went. But of all the wonderful places in the world, there was no place like home. Are we nearly there yet? Asked Peaky, Poots and Pog. It's not far now, said Mr. White. They followed him left, right, all the way home. Please stay, Mr. White, said Peaky and Poots. You can share our picnic, said Pog. So Mr. White stayed, and for a while he was happy. But the South Pole wasn't his home. He was a polar bear, and polar bears don't live there. which is why he said goodbye and walked 12,430 miles all the way back to the North Pole where he belonged. He'd followed his wildest dream and had the best adventure. Even so, he was sad to think that he would never see a penguin again. But to Mr. White's delight, he did. "Hello, how did you get there?" he said. "And where is your family?" I'm going to share with you the last page. "Here we are," said Mr. and Mrs. Pilchard Brown. "Someone put my egg in your hat," said Mrs. Pilchard Brown. Peaky and Poots pointed at Pog. "Can we have our picnic now?" he said. And although the North Pole isn't home to penguins, Mr. White was always too happy to see friends. "Welcome back," he said. And that is the end of the story. So I really hope you enjoyed doing our work on Poles Apart. You have really impressed the Year 2 team with your fantastic stories. So give yourselves a big pat on the back. And I will look forward to seeing you very soon. So take care and see you soon.